recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. Sorry, I was having a senior moment there. Recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My substance along the way was alcohol. My behaviour, cross-addicting, because it's not only substance which can find us in addiction, I guess, it's also behaviour too. My behaviour, workaholic, relationships, you name it, anything to fix the gap inside, that feeling of loneliness, emptiness, not sure about life, and predominantly fear. But we have to know what fear is first, and if we've had it for most of our lives, and we live with it, we don't know what it is, until maybe we take away those things which are filling the gap. So take away the alcohol, the workaholism, the relationship isms, and all the collecting isms, and try to fill what is an enormous gap inside with nothing, and then starting with good things can feel very awkward indeed. And that's when we really start to understand what fear might be. Fear of not being good enough, who we are, having no identity, and wondering if it's okay to have a blank page of life to stare at. And the answer is yes. A blank page every day is pretty darn good, because it means that we have room to grow. And room to grow is what life is all about. And all through my drinking years I was growing and growing and growing, and learning and learning and learning, and filling myself up all the time to try and make myself feel better, rather than live well and feel okay. And it took me an awful long time to realise that driving myself to perfection in all directions at once was actually absolutely undermining any sort of serenity I might find in a day. And also, what is spiritual? You know, this thing that we are told about, either through our religious connections or just by life in general. What is spiritual? Well, the conclusion I've come to, which is very much in line with what Gandhi said about life and God. God is truth, God is love, God works through people. So if I can see the truth of now, in the moment, that's my spiritual connection. And it's not the truth I want, or the truth I would manufacture, or the truth that I believe right now. It's the absolute truth of how things are today, reality. So spiritual for me is being a part of reality, living reality as it is, and being able to cope with it. So that means for me, the truth of now, that spiritual is good and bad. The wonderful experiences and the sad experiences, and knowing that I have all these emotions inside me for a good reason. So whether it's a good emotion because it's seen to be good, or a negative emotion because it's seen to be unhelpful, we need the negative in order to know what the positive is. So it's like everything in life. There is a positive and negative reaction available to us depending on our life situation, our life experiences, and what is going on for us, and what we observe in the world is going on for other people as well. And sometimes people say compare and despair, because what do? We don't compare with people who have less than us, we compare with people who we think have more than us. And that's most often in material ways, or the way it looks for them, and what they should say and share about their lives. And truthfully, it's quite unimportant. All we need to do is find our own serenity, live our own life experience, and be okay that spiritual is the positive and the negative of life. How else would we learn about what it is to be a human being? Being in the moment of now. So, what's helped me find myself back on track? I'm an addict in recovery, which means that on a daily basis, 24 hours, I try to do the next right thing. And what helps me do that? Family, friends, community, professionals, always help me along the way. And a big part of my life is fellowship, and that's the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm very fortunate, because there is only one qualification for being in it, and that is a desire to stop drinking. And once we have a desire not to drink, we're in, if we say we're in the fellowship, and that's as far as it goes. And then we can start learning how other people do this, and start learning how it can work for us, just on an individual basis. So the greatest gift for me is I got my ears back so I could listen. I got my senses back because I stopped drinking. But it didn't take away the pain of life. And life can be very painful and very difficult. If it weren't, what would be the point? So if life is difficult and we find happiness along the way, that is a gift, and knowing the difference between the two. So rather than medicating my life away with people, places, things which I thought I was in control of, and thinking I was in control of life, I actually live life as it is, hopefully, without worrying too much about what others may think of me or what others are doing. It's none of my business. So what have I learned in my first step on the fellowship program? That I'm powerless over alcohol, and if I take a drink, life will be unmanageable. And I share about AA here, the fellowship, what its intentions are. Not dogmatic, simply it's full of unique, authentic people. Not special and different, just unique and authentic, not special and different, finding a way to live life and be productive in the sense of finding happiness as happiness can be. We don't have to manufacture it. Happiness comes with endeavour. So what is AA? I share the statement of intent and then something from the literature. And these videos are really for people who can't get to a meeting for whatever reason, or just a mental jogger, or actually for me to slow me down and remind me of what is good for me, rather than going back and trying a bit more research or convincing with another drink. So AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And the gift in all of that for me is share it and learn from others, experience, strength and hope. And I go to meetings of AA most days because I meet my friends in fellowship, and fellowship helps me make the rest of my life work. So it's integral and a part of, and helps me live in the day and function and be a part of society. Sounds altruistic, but you know, all it means is I can be me at the end of it. I can just be me, and if I can be helpful and a part of and enjoy life, I think that is part of the primary purpose of living. Anyway, just a bit on daily reflections, because I'm almost out of time. It says here, January 16th, hitting bottom. Why all of this insistence that every AA must hit bottom first? That's a rock bottom where it just seems like we can't go any further. The answer is that few people will sincerely try to practice the AA program unless they have hit bottom. For practicing AA's remaining 11 steps means the adoption of attitudes and actions that almost no alcoholic who is still drinking can dream of taking. And the gift in that is that if we're an alcoholic and we're still drinking, we can't see very much of life at all. But if we actually start to embark on a 12-step action program to change our attitude and behaviour on a daily basis, starting with step 1, powerless over alcohol and life is unmanageable if we take a drink, then we know if we don't take a drink and life gets more manageable, and we don't try and think we can go back and make life work with drinking, we have a fair chance at the other 11 steps. So for me, the serenity prayer, which is to God, good conscience, or something in us, that inner connection to what we know is good for us. When I say it many times a day, if things are not going too well, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change today, courage to change the things I can today, and the wisdom to know the difference simply is for me, and always will be, just for today. Seems to be rattling along quite quickly, and when we have busy lives it's very hard to recognise just how time passes. But in the past I can remember long days of being abjectly unhappy because I was yet to be somebody in recovery from addiction, and my videos are all about recovery from addiction to substance and behaviour. My substance was alcohol, my behaviour, trying to be perfect in all areas of life, and never getting quite to be anything but an ordinary human being, doing the best he could. And in and amongst that, drink took me over, and the addiction was complete. It was 100% addicted to alcohol. I don't know when the crossing over line was. Does it matter? Not so much these days, but to understand the pathology of any addiction, it's probably wise to understand that if we keep on topping ourselves up with something which takes the edge off life, or makes us feel fixed in a way which is unnatural, then we're probably having a bit of a problem with dependence. And I go to AA, that's Alcoholics Anonymous, which is a fellowship of men and women who only have one reason for meeting up, and that's a desire to stop drinking. And I'll just share the preamble which is said at every meeting of AA, and probably every meeting of any anonymous fellowship. This is it, preamble, available on a little card from any AA meeting who has the literature out, or freely available on the internet if you go look for it. And it says this: Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And the reason why I say that at pretty much the beginning of every video is because it's said at every meeting, and it sort of calms us down to be into the moment of now, to focus on what is happening now, rather than be thinking about, well, I've got here just in time and I might have to leave early, or I might have to do this, that or the other. It's about calming down into the present moment, which is a spiritual connection for me. And I said earlier in the week I would talk about how it works. January being the first month of any year, and the first step of a 12-step program. In one of the books, this one here, the Daily Reflections, it has readings which are pertinent to each step of the action program of AA. And step one is, it talks about the powerlessness we have over alcohol and life being unmanageable when we take a drink. It'll be part of this reading here from how it works. There's a helpline there for UK, 0845 769 755, and then you can talk to somebody direct about how AA may be able to help you, or if you're just stuck. So that phone number is in any telephone book, or can be got from directory inquiries, and it's worth a call just to see what it's like. Right, so how it works, and this is from chapter 5 of the big book, and I found out why it's called the Big Book of AA. It's because in the 1930s and in the Depression, paper was very, very hard to get hold of at any price, so it was made out of a rag quality, which meant that the big book wasn't just that thick, it was about that thick, it was really huge. Didn't mean it was any bigger or better, but that's how it got to be the big book. How it works. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program, and I didn't in the beginning, so I kept on relapsing. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves, and in addiction I was dishonest with myself and others. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are not naturally incapable of grasping. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those too who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. And my grave mental disorder is clinical depression, and I think they might have been thinking of other grave mental disorders in the vernacular of the day. It's about being honest with ourselves, and that's the starting point, how to get honest and admit and accept being powerless over alcohol. It goes on to say, our stories disclose in a general way that what we used to be like, what happened and what we are like now. If you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. Some of these we balked. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help it is too much for us, but there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. And I'm still finding God elusive in my life, but I have got good conscience and the wisdom of the experience of people in the rooms of AA to help me make good decisions on a daily basis. So it's about the spiritual connection for me to truth. Half measures availed us nothing, and that's about rigorous honesty. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon, and I do ask for protection and care with complete abandon from my fellows who are working to the good conscience they have. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity, and the power greater than me is simply AA and the good conscience that prevails in most people. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understand him, or understood it, and it's our own perception of a God, of our understandings. So spiritual connection, reality, good conscience, working well in most of humanity. That's how it works for me. And I'm not denigrating God in any shape or form. I believe there are many higher powers. Just look at the size of the universe. So step 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, or the universe, to ourselves and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. So defects of character for me are living in fear, putting on a brave face, an ego to the extreme of living. And my shortcomings in step 7 are not having enough courage, faith and confidence. So courage, faith and confidence are those things which will help me more than my defects of fear, brave face and ego. But there is a balance in all these things. 8, made a list of all people we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. And we're not about going out as vigilantes with truth and honesty. We're about going out there with truth and honesty and not hurting people, but also accepting our part in what happened in the past and making amends as we can. 10, continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admit it. That's a daily chore. Well, it's not a chore actually, it's a daily part of life for me these days. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for his knowledge of his will, the knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. And that's to the good of good conscience, nature, providence, the universe for me. It's not bigger or smaller than anybody else's perception of powers greater than me. It's just what I've learned and understood for myself. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. So it's about practicing the principles, and it's about living the steps. It's not about being a graduate of AA or learning the steps and be able to roll them off as in rote, as if we are some sort of mechanical robot. It's about making the best use of these steps in living and experiencing the steps, and we can only make them work if we have those experiences. Many of us exclaim, "What an order, I can't go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. And my time is up for the last paragraph. It will follow on in the next video, so more in just a few moments.